South Africa didn't just wake up to today's news. It woke up to a bombshell, not a headline, not a scandal, but a revelation so powerful and so destabilizing that it shook the very foundations of power in this country. For years, President Cyril Ramaphosa was painted as a reformer, a healer, the man who would free the ANC from the grip of corruption. He was the negotiator who calmed storms, the steady figure when the nation trembled. For millions, he represented the last promise of Mandela's legacy. But today, that image shattered. What emerged was not rumor or speculation, not whispers of rivals, but his own voice, his own words. A leaked audio recording that South Africans had only heard about in hushed tones was now out in the open. And in that recording, the president himself was heard confessing the unthinkable, saying that he would rather fall on the sword than fully expose the truth about campaign funding. Pause for a moment and consider what that means. Why would a sitting president sacrifice himself rather than allow the truth to be revealed? What truth is so dark, so dangerous, that it cannot withstand the sunlight of exposure? The whispers point in one direction: money. Not harmless private donations or empty campaign promises, but public money. Taxpayer money. The very funds meant to keep the lights on in schools and hospitals, to keep electricity running, to pay the salaries of teachers and nurses. Money drained from a struggling people and allegedly funneled into the machinery of political power. Imagine that for a second. The salaries of teachers, the medicine that was supposed to reach patients, the roofs that were meant to shelter the poor, all redirected into a political war chest. A nation already staggering under unemployment and poverty, watching its hard-earned coins transformed into ammunition for political survival. This is not just corruption, it is betrayal. A betrayal so deep that it strikes at the heart of South Africa's confidence in itself. And now, with the recording echoing through the airwaves, the question is no longer whether South Africans trust Ramaphosa. The question is whether South Africans can trust their government at all. The timing could not have been more cruel. Only days ago, Ramaphosa stood before cameras holding the final report of the National Anti-Corruption Advisory Council. He spoke of a renewed, honest South Africa, one that could rise from the ashes of state capture. His words carried the weight of Mandela's promise, echoing like a prayer in a weary nation. But now those promises lie in ruins. Because behind the glittering speeches and solemn pledges, another truth was simmering. If the leaked audio is authentic, then the very man who built his image as the country's clean-up president was entangled in the same dark machinery he vowed to dismantle. Imagine the betrayal. A leader who promised to root out corruption is now accused of feeding from the very poison he swore to eliminate. The reformer painted as a saint emerges as just another politician with his hand in the till. This is not just hypocrisy, it is a breach of trust at the deepest level. And the explosion was immediate. Within minutes of the recording's release, South Africa's digital sphere caught fire. Twitter, Facebook, WhatsApp, all ablaze with outrage. Hashtags demanding accountability climbed to the top of trending lists. Millions of angry voices united across divisions. Some called it treason, others cowardice, but across the spectrum one truth was clear. The bond of trust between the people and their president had broken. Civil society groups once loyal to Ramaphosa's reformist image turned their backs. Their rhetoric grew sharper, their patience gone. Opposition parties smelled blood in the water, circling like sharks in a storm. They demanded impeachment, investigations, and even prison sentences. And for ordinary South Africans, this was more than another headline. It was personal. It was humiliating to know that their sweat, their taxes, their endless sacrifices, money for hospitals without medicine, schools without books, homes without light, may have been used to fuel a political empire. But this story is bigger than one man, bigger than one scandal. It strikes at the very soul of South Africa's democracy. Because if the president himself is compromised, if even he succumbs to the lure of hidden money, then who among the powerful can be trusted? The crisis stretches beyond Ramaphosa. Police Minister Baki Cele has already faced accusations of collaborating with criminal networks. The ANC itself is in turmoil, factions sharpening knives in smoke-filled rooms. The economy stumbles, inequality yawns wider, blackouts drag on like endless nights. And now a president once seen as a steady hand has sunk into the same quagmire. This raises a question too terrible to ignore. Is corruption not just a disease infecting leaders, but the very lifeblood of the system? Investors in New York, London, and Beijing are already watching closely. Trust once broken makes markets tremble. South Africa, once the continent's democratic beacon, now flickers like a candle in the wind. Billions in investments hang in the balance. At home, the damage cuts even deeper. Trust, once shattered, is nearly impossible to restore. For the young generation born free after apartheid, who believed in a new dawn, this scandal feels like the ultimate betrayal. It is a cruel reminder that no matter how many promises are made, politics often devours hope. And beyond the markets and power games lie the human wounds. When a leader breaks faith, he doesn't just fail a nation, he scars it. He leaves wounds that never fully heal. It tells citizens their voices don't matter, their sacrifices are expendable, and justice is a luxury for the poor but optional for the powerful. Picture the single mother waiting 6 hours at a public clinic only to be told there is no medicine. The unemployed graduate knocking on door after door with a CV in a land where opportunity has dried up. The family living in a shack without running water, without electricity, burning candles through the night. For them, this scandal is not abstract, it is treason in its rawest form. It proves once again that those at the top write rules for themselves while the rest suffer in silence. Where does this leave South Africa? The investigation will now decide the president's legal fate. The courts will weigh evidence, determine guilt, and perhaps set new precedents. But the political trial is already underway. In the streets, on social media, in living rooms and taxi ranks. The ANC faces its deepest crisis since 1994. Opposition parties circle. Allies grow restless. The public is divided in anger and despair. And history waits to judge. This is more than a scandal. It is a test of the South African spirit. Will this become another chapter in the long story of betrayal, or will it mark the moment when citizens demand true accountability? Not just speeches and promises, but truth and justice. The answer does not rest in the union buildings. It rests in the hands of the public. Because this is no longer just about Cyril Ramaphosa. It is about the kind of country South Africa chooses to be.